All right, it's recording now.
Okay. Should we wait a couple more minutes or?
Yeah, maybe like a minute or so.
Okay. Okay. I think we'll just get started. Seems like we have most everybody here today, or everyone who intends to come. Okay. So today's agenda, we're gonna go over, just introduce the officer apps, and then we're gonna go over modules and have a demo. Okay, for the officer application, it'll be due on Sunday, April 11th at 11:59 p.m. And basically the process is just going to be a written application, and afterwards there'll be an interview. It's tentative, but as of now, we are planning to hold the interviews during the 1-week break in April. And I'm going to also paste the link in chat if you want to save this. And if you aren't able to get the link or you lose the link, it's on both, it should be on Discord, and we'll also email it out as well. Okay. So let's get started talking about modules. So a bit of background, I guess, like in the early days of JavaScript, it wasn't really necessary to have modules because programs were very small and they were mostly used for isolated scripts. And essentially, it was just, JavaScript was just used for bringing a bit of interactivity to your website. However, now as we have more complex applications and many applications built completely in JavaScript, it makes sense to split our JavaScript program into separate modules, which which we can import whenever we need. So what is a module? Well, a module is just a file, and each script is going to be a module, and it's really as simple as that. And you'll sort of see how we can import in the syntax for importing and exporting modules as we go. And so here's a table from the Mozilla developer docs for browser support for both importing and exporting. You should be fine as long as you're not on Internet Explorer, which not many people are on it. Okay, so when you're exporting, really all you need to do is add the export keyword in front of any object you want to export. This can be like variables, classes, functions, etc. It can be really anything from your script. And you might want to make a modules directory, which is sort of like your which is just a directory within your project file to put all your modules in. And another way you can export for ease is you can just put the export line at the very end, and you can list all the variable names for the different objects you want to export. Looks like I have made a typo here, but yeah, you can just list all the names. And when you're importing, it's also very similar. You just add the import, and you have to list the names of the objects you're importing, and you also have to specify the file path. And once it's imported, you can just use the variables or objects as if they were defined within this same file. And you can even export more functions to be used in another script. So you might start to think of sort of like a hierarchy where in you have like different files which are like which have like helper functions that you're exporting, and you in every file you might have like imports and exports, and they all lead up to your like main.js file or your script.js file. And additionally, you can also import all from a specified path by using the star notation. And if you want to import within HTML, you can use a script tag and specify the type as a module. So you'll also need to import as a default or export as a default. And this essentially allows you to have a default function in a module. So when you're importing, there's no need to remember the name of the name of the function or such. You can just import as shown. So when we use Vue for the for our final application, you'll see that we export components, and we might have a separate file for each component where we export the default. We export a default component in each file. And so essentially, when you want to export a default, in addition to the export keyword, you'll also have the default keyword, and then you define your function as you would normally. And again, when importing, it's similar. You just you import with the keyword default, but you will also need to define a name for it. So this you can sort of think of it as you're like renaming the function difference. And again, you can use this function now with the name myFunction, myfunc, and you can use it as if it was defined within this file. And you may also want to rename imports or exports. It's similar to it's a similar syntax to when you're importing or exporting a default function. You import, you specify the name of the original function, and you specify a new name. And similarly, when you're exporting, you specify the name of the function and specify a new name for the export. Okay, so there's also going to be something called aggregating modules. This is a concept which is pretty useful, where if we have a we can group our modules together in order to export them easily. So you can sort of see where essentially, if I want to use the circle, square, and triangle in main.js, I'd have to type out a separate a separate import for each of them because they're in separate files. However, when we can instead make a module called shapes.js, and in the shapes.js file, we'd export square, triangle, and circle. And so if we have like many different files in our root directory, we don't need to write like 3 lines to import each of them. Instead, we write 3 lines in the shapes.js, and in any subsequent file, we can just import all 3 from the same file. So that's sort of like aggregating the three modules together into one module. And of course, you might have like many different things like shapes in like numbers or functions or a math folder. for different math functions and such. Okay, and then finally, we might use dynamic loading for our project as well. Dynamic loading essentially just allows us to load modules whenever we need it to. And this is as opposed to loading all the modules up front, which is what we'd be doing in the previous examples, where we just had all of our imports at the top. So this leads to some obvious performance advantages. And essentially, all you have to do is call the import function. And this, keep in mind, is a function, which is different from how we would import with this keyword here. So it's a function, and it returns a promise. So you pass in the module path as the parameter, and it'll return a promise with the module. And you can essentially then take this and you can do whatever sort of code you wanted to do with that module, and as a response from the promise, using the dot then and using a callback function. So that's how you would do dynamic importing. Okay, now I think Kento was going to do a demo on modules. So, oh, also, I will copy this code if you need it.
Yep. Okay, so I was gonna use REPL.it and I realized they don't have node 15, but that's okay. I'm trying to figure out, trying to see exactly what I can do to get around that, but let's see. Let's see here. Deno supports, yeah, okay. Let me share my screen. Boom, share. I guess I'll open up the current project we have because that one uses a module. So let me open that one up. Share screen, VS Code. Bam. Okay, so I'm loading up the project that we're working on, the thing that takes notes during Zoom. I mention that pretty much every week, but so far what we have, just as a demo, is we have the main page, right? And it's like, oh, welcome. And you can create a new session, join sessions, whatever. And then, oh, I forgot to, yeah. So if we open it up in our editor, then we can see that there's a lot of there's a lot of JavaScript files in our JavaScript and Vue files in our source code. So you might be wondering, like, what if we have a shared function that we want to have in like 2 places, and we want to use in 2 places? For example, here in we have the screen for the session, or like the meeting screen, and then we also have a screen where you can join a meeting, right? And in both of these places, I wanted to have the function that asks the user what their name is. And the easy way to do it would be like write the function and then copy paste in 2 places. But obviously that's not really scalable, because then if you were trying to like have that, if you were to have a new page, or if you were to have to change that function, then you have to copy paste everywhere, and that's not very nice. So here I decided to use a JavaScript module. So basically here you can see, let me zoom in a little bit. Zoom in, okay. So you can see this syntax here: import ask name from component / ask name.js. So then if we go to here, and then you see component / ask name.js, and let's open that up. I have this export default syntax that Keshav talked about. And basically, this function gets substituted into ask name. So then in this JavaScript over here, I can use this method. So all I do in here is ask name, somewhere over here, ask name, like that. So then in the other file, join view.view, you can also use it the same way. So it's just ask name like that, right here. Ask name this dot dial. Okay, and the cool thing about modules is that there are packages on npm. Remember, we did like package managers and stuff. You can npm install other people's packages. And for example, this Axios thing, we didn't make it. Axios is something that makes sending network requests really easy. So what we did here was we installed Axios, and then we just import it using this import Axios from Axios syntax. And then when we want to use Axios, we just do Axios dot and then whatever we want to do. So this way you don't have to like copy paste stuff from other people's code or do anything of that sort. And if you're curious to see the where Axios is actually stored in, it's in this node modules folder. Usually you ignore this folder, but if you were to, for example, see, oh, where is Axios actually defined? You can just go to definition, and they do the same thing. They export Axios. So yeah, basically you can import modules, and then you can create your own exports for using your code in various places. All of our files in this project, for example, are based on like importing and exporting. So in this file, for example, you just look at the top, it says import view router, import join view. And then because we define view router up here with this import, you can use it, and et cetera, et cetera. So you might be thinking like, okay, how about loading a JS module in the browser? So what if we have just a regular static page? Let me make a new HTML file. Okay, and then let me select HTML as the language. So let's say we have a script called module.js, right? So usually if you want to include a script in your HTML, you just do script src equals, and then I'm just going to make this import module in JS file demo. Okay, so usually if you wanted to import a script, you just put the URL, like index.js, for example. Okay, but this wouldn't work if you were using a module, because modules have like exports and imports and whatever. So all you have to do is script src equals that, or module.js, and then type equals module. And then here you can use that module. Yeah, so it's pretty easy. And then another problem you might think about is like, okay, we have our modules, we have our libraries that are actually just modules, and we want to use them, but then if we can't just like have this entire folder run locally on the user's computer, right? Because then basically what this import thing is doing is it's telling our node environment, our Node.js environment, to like get this module from this place, get this function from this place, and put it together and run it. But when we're running in the browser, we need all the code to be compiled into like one big file, and that's where bundlers come in. So bundlers basically take modules, like for example, again going back to this session view thing, we import this like askName.js, right? Basically, what a bundler does is it takes this askName and says, okay, it's located in here. Let me go ahead and go to this module over here, and then okay, so it looks like this. So let me just substitute this code into here, and then it basically optimizes your imports and just gets rid of your imports and actually just puts it into one gigantic file, pretty much. And that way you can actually load it up in the browser. And so, for example, if we run this npm run serve, what this command does is it takes this uncompiled code and then it compiles it into something your browser can actually use. So we can wait for it to run. And you'll see that when it's running, it will say it's compiling modules. So just wait a bit. It's starting a server. Okay. Okay, so it's saying building modules. So what that's doing is it's looking at what modules we actually used and where we're using them, and then it's compiling it into one gigantic JavaScript file that's not really readable for humans. So if we look at the source code of the website, it just looks like garbage, but it does the same thing that we told it to do. I'll show you guys what it looks like when it's compiled. So it's building modules, building. You can see that it's looking in this node modules folder as well. So basically every function or everything we use, it's putting into the compiled file. It does take a bit of time, but once it's running, it's very fast to compile. So we just got to wait one time and then it's easy. So 65, 66. $67, come on. Let's see what's in the chat. I'm kind of waiting, so I can't do anything. You know what compiles instantly? Okay. Yeah, you know what? Ronak is gonna demo that right after this. Because the cool thing is there are many bundlers, right? There's Snowpack, there's Webpack, and this, for example, uses Webpack. But then Ronak went ahead and made his own. That's kind of cool, actually. So I'll let him show that off. You know, advertise for stars. Okay, so we have the server running now. That took quite a while. Okay, let's open the site. And now we see if this works. Boom, there's our thing. All right, so if we take a look at the JavaScript in the browser, it just looks like a mess. And I'll show you how that is. Let me go to sources. Why is it so slow today? I don't know. Okay, JS, app.js. So basically what it did, again, is it took all these files everywhere, right? We have this app.view, session view, whatever, main.js, and whatever. It took all that and then it put it into one gigantic JS file. So here it is. I'm pretty sure you can't read that, right? Like, how are you supposed to interpret any of this? And the lines are like very long. So the point isn't to have readable code. The point is to have one gigantic chunk that works. And it does the same thing as what you specified. So let's see. Okay, so we have this join view here, right? And this join view, I have a route set up so that it shows up when I go to slash. So join view slash, and you can see it's slash. Okay, so this is the join view. And inside join view, we have create a new session button, and that shows up properly over here. Okay, now let's dive a little bit into the view code as well here. When this create a new session button is clicked, it'll run create session. Okay, what's create session? Let's look it up. Oh, there it is. Create session. Okay, that creates a session. Let's try that out. Let's click create session. Display name. This is the ask name import I was talking about. So even though it's one gigantic JS file, right, the ask name function is properly imported and you can use it. So let's type Kento and click OK. And something broke. I'm not sure what it is. Oh, okay. I forgot to change it to HTTPS or whatever it is. Yoshinori Nishi, what is? Oh yeah, that's my dad's name. From origin has been. Oh, Sangman, I think your server has disabled cores again. Well, it worked before. Okay, it worked before. You know, come on. It's
Does it
fine.
need HTTPS? Because like it still exists.
No, it was using the HTTP, but that one doesn't use cores anymore for some reason.
I mean, HTTP doesn't work. It doesn't exist anymore. So.
Oh, okay.
That's why.
I see. Okay, so let's see. Let's try it again with the new URL. All right. Let's empty the cache and reload. Why is it being so laggy? Hold on. I'm gonna stop sharing for a second. What is being so laggy on my computer? Is it Messenger? Oh my God, it's actually Messenger. Oh my God. Okay. Share screen. Messenger was lagging my computer way too much, so I just closed it. Let's see here. So because I don't know why, but when you update an environment variable, so basically environment variables are things that you set locally that you can change, that you don't want to hard code, right? So let's say we want to have, for example, like, I don't know, this is a good example. We have the URL of the server, but let's say we want to change the server's URL across the entire code base, right? Then it would be quite tedious to go and find and replace every single instance of that address across our entire code base. So what we do is we define an environment variable. So it's like view app backend domain. And then all we do is in files that we want to use this thing, we session view, we do process.env and then the variable name. So what this does is it says, okay, environment variables, which is this thing, and then it gets this value, this string right here, and then it substitutes backend domain with this. So you can think of it as the same thing. And all it does is once you change it in the environment file, it updates everywhere. And that's pretty nice because then you don't have to change the same thing everywhere. And Messenger uses JS means like, yeah. I don't know why, but Messenger is super laggy online. I'm not sure why. Okay. I made the decision to just quit the build. I don't know why, but it should be done in a bit. I just want to show that it works just before we end it off. It's hard work tracking all your customers. Yeah, it is. But Google does it all the time anyways. Facebook is crypto mining on your PC convert. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they are because it's so laggy. I don't know. Okay, 90%, come on, 95. Okay, there we go. So let's open that up. Oh, what happened? I don't know what happened, but okay. Let's open that up. It should work now. Okay, here we are, back in the app. Okay, let's create a new session. Create new session. And name is Kento. Please work. Aha, it works. Okay, so what this did is now we're in the session screen, which was over here. And this is just a file, right? It's just a page. And then the way we routed our user to there is by using view router. And what we did was a dynamic import, as Keshav talked about. We have the session URL over here, right? What we do is when the user visits this URL /session/ID, we dynamically import the session.view component, which is right over here. Yeah. So unless the user actually visits the page, it won't load. So that way we can save bandwidth a little bit. And here you can see that the slash page, the default page, is always imported. So we import it at the top. So that means we import it before the user even opens it. And then when they go to the URL, it's instantly there. But then for the case of sessions, a user might go to the home page, but then never view the session page, or the user might go to the home page and then never view the /about page. So then it would be wasteful to load all those pages at once. So what we do is we only import them dynamically when we need it. Yeah, so here there's an explanation. Route level code splitting. This generates a separate chunk for this route, which is lazily loaded when the route is visited. All right, so then now we have this page over here. And it works. Yay. All right. That's pretty much it. But Ronak, if you want to show your same pack thing and promote it, go ahead.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Oh, whoops! I turned on my camera instead of my mic. I'll give
Wait,
you.
can you enable screen sharing?
I will. Screen share. There you go.
Wait, is it sharing the replit?
Yep.
All right. So here's like how here's how like the bundlers work on the on the back end. So let's say we have a file called index.js. It's the entry point. It imports files from other modules, and these other modules import functions from other modules. So if we build it
You might want to zoom
using
in
this
just a little bit.
bundler. So if we build it using this bundler I made, right? So we can analyze this to see what it did. So right now, so this is what happened to the dependency 1.js. It just surrounded this within a closure, and then it only returns the part that is exported. And then for importing, we just use JavaScript destructuring on the object. And you'll notice that like, if you have a secret, like here, the secret is never released. So you don't have to worry about other modules accessing non-exported stuff. Yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah, so as you can see, yeah, basically it took all the dependency files and put it into one bundle.js.
And SamePack it has 100% success rate in getting your app a lot of users. With 100% of its apps having thousands. Yeah.
All right. Sample size. Oh, the sample size is it's a 1. All right. Well, there's the repro for you guys if you want to check it out. All right. That's pretty much it for this meeting. And if anyone got any questions, let us know.
All right, guys. Thank you. Have a good day.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Cool. I'm gonna end the recording now. Oh, what's the code? It is, what was the code? Let me see. Module. It's module. What's the link to? Yeah, okay, I got it. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Bam, HTTPS. Bam. Bye. See you next week.